Hello, Bethany.
Hello.
You okay?
Right.
I've got my sexy husky voice on. You love it. You love it.
Okay. If you say so, hun.
I think it's sexy. No?
You are sexy, so I'll give you that.
I'm either low pitched or really high.
Let's get to the chase. Why are you sat next to me again?
Oh, because we don't want to talk to each other.
Looking at me?
It's washed and fresh.
Am I the drama?
Am I the problem? Because we want to talk to other people too.
Okay.
I still want to talk to you, just us two sometimes. But I feel like, how are we supposed to talk about this topic that we're about to talk about today without bringing somebody else in?
And let me tell you guys, Georgie has
It's gonna kick off.
potentially slated this.
Yeah.
Rejected it as a key priority in your wedding.
Not true, but okay.
You have.
In my wedding is the key word there.
On social media,
Yeah.
you have outed it and saying, get rid of it.
That's
pointless. You
also
don't need
not
it.
true. So I tell you what, Brian, let's run the intro and then we can spit facts.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding and welcome
The Unfiltered Bride Podcast. Tips from the top table and beyond.
so you know it's going to be juicy.
So the topic that we are talking about today is cake. Dun, dun, dun. Can you put a sound effect in there, Brian? No? Okay, cool. Never do. Never do it. So today we have a wedding designer. She is sweet and salty. And she is an industry expert in this. We have Charlotte from Perfect Cakes Co.
Oh, hello.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm so excited to argue with you today.
I know, I've got a few things to say.
Why
Why
are
are you rubbing your hands together?
Yeah,
Like, she's really excited.
She messaged me the same thing that was like, you need to get me on the podcast so we can fight. And I was like, all right. I'd like to end with an arm wrestle.
A fun war.
That makes more sense.
More like, you know, this masculine energy we've just been talking about.
Yeah.
Let's end with an arm wrestle.
We'll do that. Right. Tell everybody who doesn't know who you are, and why they should listen to you, please.
Why they should listen to me?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you?
Why should they carry on the episode?
Okay, so why listen? Because it's going to be juicy. So I am a wedding cake designer and I make modern design-led wedding cakes and very detailed hand-painted cakes.
She is an artiste.
Yeah, it's cake art. It is fleeting art, as we like to call it. Just something that's
Fleeting
there
art?
for the day and then it's gone.
Oh, that makes me a bit sad.
Oh. Yeah. You wait. I'm going to persuade you. By the end of this, I'm going to
I'll buy a
persuade
cake,
you.
all right. Did you bring us any cake? Obviously you
No,
would.
no.
What the fuck?
No, sorry. I don't
How did
actually
we do
really-
this?
I don't actually like baking. So.
Brian, cut it.
Cut
The whole thing is over.
That was the promise. I forgot to bring it. Sorry. So yeah, that's what I do, and I like, you know, adding that sweet element to people's wedding days, which I think is a really important part, but only if they do.
Here we go. End of episode. That was all I wanted. That was the point I wanted to make.
Yeah.
Done. Maybe we won't argue.
No,
How
we
weird.
probably won't. To be fair.
So,
No, you go.
thanks. Tell me how you got into it. When did you realise that you were this good? One, at making cakes, but two, at being an artist? Because your work is phenomenal.
You need to pause the episode and go and have a look at what we mean.
Like,
it's you like
I think
paint.
people think of wedding cakes and they have like this perception of what a wedding cake is.
But also, if you told me that you paint pictures on a cake, I'd be like, ugh. And then you go and look at it and you're like, oh, sorry. No, but I picture like, do you know what I mean? When someone says
What do you
they
picture?
paint,
Go on, what do you
what would I
picture?
picture? I would think of somebody painting on like butterflies, just like.
There's nothing wrong with
No,
butterflies on a cake.
I actually hate butterflies. It's just it's a weird thing about, but like just icky drawing, icky art. Whereas yours are like portraits and like scenes and
Yeah.
I think you push boundaries a little bit with the cakes as well. Like,
Yes.
you do. It's very unique.
We do go. It's not for people who just want a box standard wedding cake.
Yes.
100% not. Like, you can't. People don't come to me if they just want a semi-naked cake anymore, and that's what
Does
people's
anyone do
perception
semi-naked
is.
anymore?
Yeah.
Do they?
Yeah.
So that's in a
Have they?
semi-naked in a very long
Me
time.
neither, actually. They taste great.
No, I'd like icing. I like icing.
I'm not an icing gal.
I'm all for it.
You do a lot of icing, don't you?
I don't like icing myself. I just peel it off. I don't know why people have such an issue with it. Like, they really do have an issue with icing and what type of icing they're having. And I'm like, are you eating the whole cake?
Yeah.
Are you actually eating your whole wedding cake?
Don't have the corner slice.
I'm
Just
just
like-
not an icing gal, but I appreciate that it makes the cake look
Tidy.
Yeah.
I think people have to understand that it's kind of like a apple skin.
Oh, good analogy.
It is. You're right.
You can take it off.
Yeah.
And the inside's still amazing.
Yeah.
Or you can eat it, but it doesn't have to be eaten.
Fair. All right. Good point. Explain more about your. No, answer Beth's question. How did you start?
Wasn't important. How did I start? I started when I was like 17. Yeah. Just doing the whole like Mary Berry Bake Off baking.
Yeah.
Worked through her first ever book.
Yeah.
Realised I hated baking. So we'll do cakes because they're like the easiest of all of the baking.
Okay.
You love Bake Off. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and I tried to make cake.
Don't ask me to make pastry bread or anything like that.
Okay, fair, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And then, it just progressed. As any cake maker who probably will watch this will know, what happens is you start by just making cakes for your friends and family. And then it's like, oh, people you don't know and customers. And then it just gets more and more until it becomes not a hobby anymore. And it's like people are actually paying you money. And I would say COVID year was the year I actually found my style.
Okay.
Because we had it was the year of the shoots, wasn't it? It was the
Yeah,
year of like
yeah.
constantly doing wedding shoots over and over. So you actually got opportunity to design cakes you wanted to design rather than being bound by your clients. And that was the year that I kind of created a few designs that I was like, these are, and it's just gone from there really. But I like to just,
You have kind of exploded.
Yeah, you're pretty big time.
Yeah.
I just like to do things.
She's like, yeah, I agree.
The pressure that comes with that though, of creativity, the creative pressure of like every time you produce something, it's got to be something like people are expecting it to be just different.
Yeah.
And
we were talking about this
innovative.
earlier. You then open yourself up to hate.
Oh yeah, everyone.
The
hates.
heck, guys! If I see
I'm
any of you
polarising.
comment on her stuff saying mean things, I'm going to punch you in the face. Because there was one where you did like, I can't remember what was on it. Was it for your son's birthday?
Yeah. Just my son on a bike.
So let's just say that again. Her son asked for the cake that he wanted, and then everyone was like, "You shouldn't do that for a." What was it? Him on a bike?
Yeah, it was just him on his bike, like painted on just a green floating tier cake.
And they were like, "Why would you make a cake
He'd
like that
want
for your
Spider-Man.
son?" It should be. It
He
doesn't
wouldn't
always have
want
to be
that.
aesthetic. Like,
Honestly,
what?
I got abused for parenting. I got abused for like being a horrible parent for not giving my child what he wants. And I was like, this is what he asked for, guys.
People are wild.
Yeah.
But if someone was looking for a wedding cake, for example, let's start with, do we want a wedding cake?
Yeah,
What?
it's a good question.
What decides if you want a wedding cake?
Well, ask Georgie. What did she decide whether you wanted a wedding cake?
Actually, I can fully answer it. So when we were talking about wedding cakes, no, I'm free and open.
Can we just point out if Georgie didn't have a wedding cake?
I didn't have a wedding cake, but if I was going to have a wedding cake, it would be by you.
She did ask me for a dummy.
I did, didn't I?
Yeah.
Did you say no?
I didn't
remember
actually.
what we
She obviously was just being
She
polite
ghosted
and
you.
trying to appease me because
I
she
think
didn't
we
ask
were
again.
at the venue and you were like, "You having a wedding cake?" And I was like, "You can bring something if you want."
She was
But
like,
to
"I
be
want that
fair,
one and that one and that one."
You did send me. You're quite unique because your cakes taste nice and they look good. 90% of weddings I go to, they either look phenomenal and taste shit, or they look bang average but they taste incredible. So it is
It's
very
interesting,
hard.
because obviously I don't eat many other people's cakes. Like most of the weddings I go to, I've
Yeah.
made the wedding cake.
And
So
you're like, yeah,
and
banging.
I try and avoid eating people's cakes because I don't want to come across as a Mary Berry style. Like if I don't like it, I
Scoring
wouldn't
it.
tell them, but you know what I mean? Like I don't want people because they think that like you're going to judge them. So I generally don't eat cake.
Yeah.
So I don't experience, because I always get told that constantly. I'm like, get told, oh my God, it actually tastes nice. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
well,
yeah.
it's a cake.
Yours
It's
are
like
moist,
a wedding cake.
and trigger warning for anyone that doesn't like that word, but yours are moist. Do you remember us? Do you remember me bringing home the box of cake, Brian? You're not sat at your microphone. You didn't get one today. Did you give it up for Charlotte? Yeah. Aww. Do you remember? And you don't like cake, but even that you were like, "That's
Who
banging
doesn't
cake."
like cake? I'm sorry.
Brian doesn't
what?
like cake. Isla doesn't like cake.
Weirdos.
Yeah, I love cake. So okay, let me go back to your actual question. When we looked at our budget, I was like, we can't really afford a cake. That's number one. That's not where we would rather have had a free bar than cake, so that we put that there. And also we have a friend that makes brownies, and we have spent a lot of time eating those brownies, and that made more sense to us as a couple to have those brownies than a wedding cake.
I do agree.
Mic drop. I won't drop the mic because it's really expensive.
No, 100%. It has to be a priority. If you're going to book me, it has to be a priority. Like it has to be the thing that when you start thinking about your wedding planning, it is like really important and you want something different and unique. It can't be a case of just a tick list. Because if it is, I'm not your cake maker.
Yeah.
Do you ever get people coming to you? Because this is what I get a lot about cakes. Obviously, I style the cakes, like the podiums, plim. Did you see my new cake table downstairs when you walked in? Did you see
Was
that?
it the ridged one?
Yeah.
Love
gorgeous, isn't it?
Right, yeah. Put that one in the bank.
Yeah.
Book launch.
Hashtag advert. You have to pay for adverts like that, Beth.
What was it? I lost my train of thought.
Do you know what the funniest thing is? That I noticed it because immediately I looked at it and thought, no,
That's nice cake.
They did have a cake. It went on its first outing with a cake the other day. It was lovely. Anyway, another point I'll get to, if you're having a cake, make it look nice, the styling around it, because
Agreed.
Yes.
I'll get on to that.
We do need to talk about it.
But do you ever get people come to you, because this is what I get a lot, is, I don't really want a cake, but my mum really wants a cake, and she's told me I absolutely can't not have a cake because it's criminal not to have a cake. Do you have people like that come to you?
I don't have them come to me because generally...
probably they wouldn't say to you, I don't want a cake, but you can have a cake.
I don't want a cake, but I have to. So, no, I don't have them come to me because generally the people who come to me do prioritise the cake.
I was going to say, and your pricing is definitely not...
That's not a
quick, easy, a white one.
A lot of them, I'm just like, get your mum to make it, get your nan to make it, go to M&S. Like, if it's really not important.
Do you rate M&S cakes?
I've never eaten one.
I don't eat cake.
I've never tried one. I still recommend them because if you don't care,
yeah, they are great.
If you want a cake and you don't care, just get one from M&S. Like, what's the problem?
I do agree. Like, I think everybody has their priorities at their wedding, and at my own wedding, I'm actually agreeing with Georgie here. If I didn't make wedding cakes, it wouldn't have been something I would have put a lot of money towards in my wedding.
I think it's when you look at, like, for me, when I look at people's weddings and they don't have cocktails, I'm like, what the like, everybody likes cocktails. It's exactly the same as cake.
Exactly. Because I don't really like cocktails.
That's the thing.
So,
and if it doesn't make sense to you, why would you spend the money on something that
100%.
is not a representation of your personality?
Yeah.
But I agree. I think when you look at these wedding websites and things like that, and they're like, at 9 to 12 months, you need to do cake. And everyone's like, oh, okay, I need to get my cake.
I always, like, the people who were booking it like 6 months before your wedding, those are the ones that I'm always like, they're probably not my clients.
Yeah.
Not saying you can't. There are people who do rush, you know, like last minute weddings. There are people who, they are interested in it, but they just haven't thought about it. So I'm not applying this to everybody, but generally a lot of the time, those are the people who do just want a tick box wedding cake. And those are the ones that I'm like, you're probably not going to want. But I say this, but the only thing I would say is, compared to getting your nan, your mum, M&S to do your cake, even for a basic cake, having a professional cake maker, and this is what people don't really understand, is what's involved in
making a cake.
Baking a cake's fine. Yeah. Baking a tiered cake, a very different entity. Setting it up on the wedding morning, a very different entity. Putting flowers on it, if that's what you're going down, making them food safe to not go and, like, you know,
poison everyone.
All your guess the shits.
Yeah.
Like, that is kind of
Unfiltered Bride.
something people don't. That's something
we actually don't swear on this podcast. It's actually really subtle.
That's something people don't think about. Like, they think about the fact that I'm not really prioritizing a cake, so I'll get it done in a budget way. But that will mean you will get a budget cake.
This is
and
what
the venue
kills
will
me.
Constantly tell me, will this one fall over? I'm like, what?
No.
What cakes fall over? Oh, the last 3 have fallen over. I'm like, who made it?
Yeah, you can spot, and I say this as respectfully as possible, a cake that's not made by a professional. And then it comes to me of the thing of 100%.
No.
When their nans,
strongly disagree.
No,
because
you're
I
very
have
wrong.
had professional cakes.
Okay, no, I know exactly what you're going to say, and I actually probably agree with
had
that.
Okay, but I mean,
cakes,
when a mate does it,
and I've had to go, we're cutting the cake now because it's about to fall over.
Sorry, but I can spot one that's been made by a friend that doesn't make cakes a mile away, as in because it just looks a bit shit. And then it's kind of like, well, then why are you fucking doing it?
Yeah,
because they just are like.
I know what Beth's saying though.
But also,
She's
you
talking
can
about
get professional
people who,
ones that look shit.
who make amazing birthday cakes.
Yeah.
But wedding cakes isn't their thing. And they're dabbling in it. They're getting into the industry rather than kind of before doing that as their sort of main purpose. They haven't gone out and kind of got the skills required to make a tiered cake that's going to stand out for 8 hours. It is a completely different thing to picking up a birthday cake that's going to go to a pub and get cut up. It is a completely different thing. So I do agree that not always having a professional cake maker isn't necessarily always the same as having a professional wedding cake maker, because it's a different skill. Yeah. It's a different skill set.
Well, this was our thing, is that I knew we wanted something sweet, but I just didn't want to have to do the cake. They were good.
I'd go with that.
Yeah.
This is Charlotte, we like cake, don't we? Remember that? Yeah.
Yes,
no, but
Charlotte,
genuinely, I love your cake. But it's just, it is. It depends.
And like, where's this beef?
I know. Sorry. Do you want to fight more? Okay, I'll give you an ick.
Okay.
Cake cuttings. What the fuck? She's going to
I
agree with me.
feel like you've jumped.
I'm trying to rile her.
Let's bring
If I'm
it
trying
back.
to rile her up
Let's
and
bring it
nothing's
back.
getting her.
Let's
It
say
will rile me up in a minute.
We're starting. We're planning our wedding.
We want a cake
We
now.
want it. We've decided we want a cake, and you're going to be like, Beth, how long's a piece of string? Right. I want a direct answer.
Oh.
It's not going to be one. I know what you're going to ask.
Ask her back.
Where do we start, budget-wise? Is there 3 different kind of? Because I always say I compared it to shops. Remember?
Yeah.
Probably like a year ago. I was like, when it comes to styling, you've got your
Primark.
your Lidls.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we did food shops.
Love a Lidl. Nothing wrong with
No,
that.
no shade on a little.
Then we've maybe got a Tesco, then we've got a Sainsbury's, then we've got a Waitrose, then we've got Harrods. You know, there's like lots of different tiers. When looking at a cake, is there different categories that we need to be looking at?
I think, again, it depends on when you kind of look at professional cake makers who have a niche. Like mine is a certain style, and a lot of the time when I go to venues, people will know it's one of my cakes.
I agree.
What is your niche?
My niche is hand-painted, detailed hand-painted, and modern design-led cakes. So they're, and what is that? Like, what actually is that? But it's
tell me
not...
Stop
I'll tell you
banging
what
the
it
table.
is.
Stop getting stressed.
no,
It's
what is
okay.
it? Tell me more. Help the people out.
I'll tell you what, how I differentiate between what I class as like a traditional wedding cake and a modern, more design-led cake is a cake that is designed to be a certain way. Like, you can't just keep adding tiers. And
Why not? Because I think you are for me.
That's because you make ludicrous requests.
How many tiers is ludicrous?
How many tiers is too many tiers,
Anything
Charlotte?
more than 8 is ludicrous.
What have we got? 8.
You've got 8.
Woo, guys!
You'll see it
Do
coming
it for the
soon.
Sophia Richies of us in the world.
But a lot of the designs I like to do, and this is what I always say to my couples, is I actually don't care how many portions you've got to serve with regards to the cake design. We will deal with that with extra cake in the kitchen, cutting cakes in the kitchen.
Okay, good.
Visually,
good to know.
what you like the look of is the most important thing. So if you like a 2-tier cake, if you like something with floating tiers, acrylic tiers, and that doesn't make up 150 portions for your wedding, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Go with what you like the look of, and then we can deal with the portions in a separate thing. So design-led cakes are ones that they are designed to be an art piece. They're like a sculpture. They are designed a certain way that you can't just be like, oh, we'll just add 2 more tiers. It's just not possible. They are designed to be that way, and they can't really be adjusted and changed, and they're designed specifically for that individual sort of event.
You've done like cool, like
client.
square, like I
There's
say
no
your
sort
cakes
of-
are weird in a nice way.
There's no sort of like limit with it. Doesn't have to be tiers that go smaller as they go up. Like, it doesn't. There's lots of creative ways to adjust it.
Is there
Venues hate me
Yeah.
for like cutting up the cakes because
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like, I don't know.
Yeah, if I could just cut in the middle, I don't know.
Is there anything that you don't do?
Yeah, a lot.
What don't you
In
do?
fact, I once did a reel that riled people up a lot because it was things you won't find on my cakes. And that is, again, personal opinion.
I feel like you're not a ribbon person around the bottom.
So I like a big ribbon,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a statement ribbon that is part of the decor, but I am not a little ribbon around each tier.
Yeah.
But because it doesn't lend itself to what I do at all is why. No offense to anyone who does it. That's absolutely fine. It's your style. That's not a problem. What you tend to find, and it might be the same in all creative industries, is that
Backtrack.
drip cakes. That's what I hate them.
Oh, drip cakes.
I
God, they're
remember
gone.
them.
Surely they're.
No, they're
no,
not.
okay.
Not
sorry.
in the birthdays, but I suppose
I don't mind a
weddings, they're
birthday. Do whatever you want. Birthdays are different. I think birthdays are like be all. This is the problem. I think is when people look at birthdays and weddings, both need a cake. Is the initial like thing, and then it's like they both need to have personality. Sometimes the cakes are more styling than they are personality, or you can choose to go person. But I just like a drip cake's never appropriate at a wedding. Do you know what I mean?
So what won't you do?
a drip cake.
Let's name things at her, and you tell us if you'll do them or not.
Go on then.
I want a sculpture cake. I want my dog.
Yeah, no, I actually would do
I
that
think I've
because I
seen it.
actually really enjoy those. Yeah. But it's weird because I see them, I don't really see it as a wedding cake, but I would, yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a train to do this year.
You got a what? A
Train,
train.
like a steam
cool.
train.
Cute. Okay. Yeah.
You need to be like that, you know, the woman that makes life-size cakes on
Yeah,
TikTok.
I'll make
Yeah.
the bride and groom. No, I don't do people. I don't do
Don't do people?
No.
Okay.
Oh.
It's a new rule for this year.
All right. No,
No
people.
painting people either. Not,
No painting
not their,
people?
Not their faces. So
Okay.
you can offend people.
That is true. Yeah.
Like painting a dog doesn't get offended.
I mean, it might.
Mine
I'll tell you.
As
The
long
human
as it's the right
does.
colour and you haven't packed on the pounds. But with painting people, going and walking away, painting them almost from the back. That's fine.
Are you talking from
In the
experience?
distance.
Has something happened?
I just don't like it. I think there's a lot of pressure on painting
Yeah.
someone's face on a cake.
Yeah, fair.
Like a lot of pressure, because if it doesn't
And
look exactly
all of
like
those
them,
people know that couple.
100%.
Yeah.
And we all see ourselves differently.
Yeah, I'm
I
way
look in the
fitter
mirror
than
and I'm
that.
like, you're doing well today. And then I see a photo of me and I'm like, that's not me.
Yeah.
Try doing a podcast where when we come, we're like, we look great. And then we see a video and we're like, oh, never mind.
So
close.
yeah, so I don't
No people.
know people.
Okay. I won
What have you seen? What wedding cakes have you seen that you? I'm talking to you.
me.
Yeah.
What, that I've seen that I would
Will
or
you
wouldn't.
do if I wanted a rip like shirt Superman kind of thing at the back of my cake?
Like a reveal cake.
Yeah.
No.
Would
You won't find anything like themed. Let's say
Themed.
that.
Would you do the little dog at the back that's eating a bite out of it?
I have so many people come to me with that, and we always end up painting and doing
Oh,
something
okay,
different.
fine.
Like I like the idea of having your dogs on cake. Love it. I love
But that's not
doing
the way
like
of
a
doing
really
it.
modern, sleek cake, and then integrating your animals in it. 100%. But
Alright.
we do it in the design.
Okay.
So I think that's what's key here is you are taking a concept and creating something different,
A
something
unique
cooler,
cake
something
designing.
personal
Yeah.
than just going, oh, I don't like
Especially because you could do that yourself. I think the bit for me, if I'm spending money on a cake, I need you to do something that I can't
You
do.
can't do yourself.
And I mean, I want you to do something that I don't think I can do, because the thing I think I can do is not what I can do. But
That's
I
just my
think
toxic
I can. Yeah. If I think I can do it, then I'm not paying you to do it. So
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree.
can't paint a dog on a cake, whereas I could probably get a little dog statue and put it on my
Dig in, get a
M&S
fork.
cake. Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that. I want to see the worth. So going back
100%.
to
But
her
then
question.
This is like when you sort of spending money on a cake, you want your money well spent.
what type of money are we talking? Like,
Yeah,
let's
that's what we
get
wanna
to the
know.
tea.
I love talking money. Don't get me wrong. I do. The thing with
We will tell you the cake we want. You tell us how much it is.
off. Okay,
Okay, you go a
ballpark.
bit more basic. I'll go a bit more
Ballpark.
We're doing
bougie.
different cakes.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's yours going to be? An 8-tier wedding cake?
All white.
Maybe.
I would like, please, I like your 4 tier
Yeah,
with the drape that you do,
yeah.
the floating tier.
I love
Yeah.
how I'm like, I'll go a bit more bougie. You go a bit more basic.
Is that am I not
Basic.
basic? Is that not
That is
basic?
not basic.
But
at
that's
all.
ones you do quite often.
Yeah, I
I'm
do.
thinking you're going wild. You go
Oh,
crazy.
no, I was going to go down that route, but obviously I need to think a bit. Maybe I'll go a bit more basic then, because that's
Bougie.
quite
Okay,
bougie.
then I want 5 tiers, floating, draping, and I would like the venue on the bottom tier.
Painted.
Yeah, hand painted venue, and I probably want 100 portions of cake.
You're going to be looking at like 1,500 minimum for
Okay.
that.
I don't think that's that bad. Ugh, it's-
Plus delivery. So where do you live?
oh, it's changed everything. Scotland. I just don't know what the problem is when you say how much it costs.
Wait, I haven't done mine.
No. I'm just saying to my cake that you've just priced up for me.
But she didn't want it in the first place.
Like, I don't want the cake, but like it's a lot of money
Yeah.
when you take it out of the context. But also when you look at how much effort it is and what. But my issue is that would be my feature at my
100%.
wedding. I want it in the middle of the room on the
It's
dance
like,
floor.
What I tend to say to people is, if you're going to have, especially the painted cakes,
Yeah.
you will have a viewing gallery at your wedding.
I love that.
You don't need to book yourself, sorry guys, a magician.
Oh.
You don't need to book yourself other entertainment, because genuinely people will spend a long time looking at that as, as like a viewing gallery, like an art gallery.
Yeah.
But you have to it will be a very important part of your day.
I think people will also take that because it's so
Memorable,
unique
yeah.
and bespoke. People will leave that wedding going, oh my gosh,
100%.
you wouldn't believe
all
this
they get
cake.
told. All
Like,
I get
you
told is
can
they're still
imagine-
talking about the cake.
Yeah, you could imagine, for example, like if I took a photo and I went to my nan's house, I'd be like, oh my gosh,
Look at the cake.
Look at this cake
Yeah,
I
yeah.
saw at the wedding. The other, like it's
Even when I go and set up every single wedding I set up a fully painted cake at, all of the suppliers
Yeah.
will be like, I've never seen a cake like that before.
Yeah.
All
Do
of
you
them.
flex? Are you like, that's mine?
Yeah.
I painted
Oh, I
that.
just did it in 21 hours earlier.
So what you're kind of saying, if somebody was coming to you and they want extra, $2,000 is a good chunk, because I think people don't understand what's a good amount of money.
I think also people don't understand, the people who say it's just eggs, flour and sugar, they're the ones that won't come to me.
Yeah.
They're the ones that it's not a priority and that's fine.
Yeah.
Put your money into your photographer, your magician. Whatever you want to do, that's absolutely fine. By the way, I love magicians.
Yeah.
You know.
No shade.
Those are the ones that they won't come to me.
Yeah.
It has to be the people that genuinely see the art in your work, in my work, that are like, I can 100% see why you charge that. Because some people would hear that and be like, no way.
Yeah.
And I get that 100%.
Does the flavour impact the cost?
No, not with mine. It might do with other people, but with mine personally, I have a 9 flavour menu. You can pick whatever you want from that.
What are those 9 flavours? And we'll pick our favourite ones.
White chocolate and raspberry.
Banging.
Lemon and
8
blueberry.
out of 10. 6.
Lemon and lemon curd.
7.5.
Really?
Yeah, I
More
love
than
lemon.
Lemon and blueberry.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, love lemon.
Carrot and cinnamon buttercream.
1.
Oh, no, 10.
10.
10.
This is where we're going to fall out,
Yeah.
apparently. Chocolate orange.
10.
Chocolate and salted caramel.
10.
10.
Red velvet.
10.
1. Vanilla and strawberry jam. You've got to have like the
It's
basics.
just
Yeah.
classic. 8.
And lotus biscoff.
Oh, 10.
Yeah, 9.5. There's a good range of flavours though.
Yeah,
You've got some
I'm
fruity,
not
some
like
chocolate.
a London cake. You know, like when they go a little bit off the wall.
Yeah, and I don't understand what flavours are in it, and they're like, is poppy seed, pomegranate,
Exactly,
and prosecco.
and
And I'm
rose
like,
water. But the thing is, there's no shade on that. But as I've said many times, I don't like baking.
yeah,
So as far as I'm concerned, what I
Easy.
make is good.
yeah.
Happy with that, and I'm not interested in experimenting and finding more. It kind of covers all bases.
I
We're
also
there.
feel like you're better than good. Can we just clarify that your cakes are better than good?
They
Yeah.
are tasty.
They're
Yeah,
good cake.
because you definitely downplayed yourself there.
Yeah. I noticed you didn't say a certain flavour, and I'd like to address that.
What's this?
Where's the fruitcake?
No.
Why not? My nan wants fruitcake.
Your nan can have a fruitcake from
Where?
M&S. No, to be fair, I do. If somebody wanted it, they could have it.
Yeah.
It just doesn't lend itself to the sort of cake design I do now.
Yeah.
Because, like, you think of a fruitcake, the tall tiers that are kind of more modern cakes have, you know, if you've kind of interested in cake, you'll notice things are getting slimmer and taller in the more modern designs
Yes.
rather than your shorter and fatter, which is what fruitcakes used to be. And you end up then needing to double up a fruitcake on the top tier. And why do people do it? They used to do it because they like keep it for, and
Christenings.
I don't actually know what the answer to this is because everyone has a different opinion. First baby, first year anniversary, christening of the first child. Like I don't actually know which is the correct traditional one that you're supposed to keep that cake
I
for.
thought it was. Let me tell you. I thought it was for the first christening. I thought it
But
was
then-
to have serve cake at the christening.
And I think nowadays it's changed because a lot of the time people have kids before they've had their
Yeah.
wedding, so actually
And don't
they
get
maybe
christened.
have their christened, or they don't get christened, or their babies are like 10 years later, and
Yeah.
even a fruitcake ain't lasting that long. So yeah, people just don't tend to have it nowadays. They just I haven't done one for probably a couple of years now.
So whilst you Google that,
Okay.
say I want a cake, I don't have a £2,000 budget. What are my options? Say maybe for £1,000, can I still get a cake?
Oh, 100%. You can get an incredible cake for that.
What's the cheapest cake you can give me?
That's
so my
incredible.
minimum spend is £600 this year and £700 next year.
Right.
And for that, you'll get like a 3-tiered cake.
three-
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, okay.
I was picturing like a little square, like a little what they called French fancy.
Yeah.
It's all, the thing is, a lot of the time with cakes, it's down to the design that
Yeah.
costs the money. It's the time that it takes to decorate. I'm not saying that ingredients costs are not extortionate. They really are.
They really are butter. What the hell? What's happened to butter?
Chocolate at the moment is an issue. But it's generally down to how long it takes to decorate. So when you're having a 24-hour painted cake, it's gonna be
paying
whacking
for
it
a
up a bit.
24-hour painted
Exactly.
piece of art.
So, but for a sort of £600, you'd get a 3-tier, 80 portions. So, you know, that's the standard size wedding a lot of people would be a small 3-tier, which I call it a small 3-tier. Just sort of either white or coloured iced with some fresh flowers from your florist.
Cute.
Perfect.
Cute.
Like, don't give me, that's what, you know, it's not extortionate for what you actually get. And there will be people cheaper.
Yeah.
Not denying that. But whether you get the same service, that's always the thing as well. It's not just about the cake, it's about the experience.
Would you do like a little mini cake for somebody or not?
So what I actually started offering this year as well is the couple get a recipe card for one of the flavours of their wedding cake. So they can, if they want to, then like recreate on a romantic evening their wedding cake.
Now I
Love
wish I had a
that.
cake just to do that date night.
Yeah. And if they can then also do 21 hours of painting on it to get it
That'd
just
be-
the same, that would be amazing.
I'm engaged, not engaged. Decided I want a cake. what service am I looking for? Because you said about that experience.
Yeah.
Like, what am I expecting? What not to expect? What shouldn't I?
I think it will. What you get is dictated by what you pay.
Can I just say something really quickly whilst it's on my brain?
Yeah.
The biggest taboo I hear and the gripe from people is, how can you expect me to book you to make my cake when I haven't tried your cake?
Do you send out taster boxes?
Not before they've booked, no.
Fuck, right, let's fight. Let's argue.
I agree. Why? I'm not a free fucking cake service giving out samples.
No, but I know some places you pay for the samples.
Fair.
You can. So if somebody was really adamant they wanted to try my cake before they booked, I would offer them, they would have to pay for it, and they could buy a tasting box, yes. But my tasting boxes are so time consuming to make. And this is something I also get a lot of hate for, especially on TikTok. I'm waiting for it.
Georgie's ready to go.
I'm angry now, Charlotte.
Right. 3, 2, 1, go.
I've met you and I've tried your cake and it's phenomenal. I would only book you if I tried your cake. Your cake could be shit.
Do you know why that is?
Dry.
Do you know why that is?
Why?
Because you don't prioritise the cake.
No, yeah, but if I
No,
do,
100% it
yeah, but
does.
if I do prioritise cake, I want to taste it more. Surely,
I think.
surely, you started this fight. Get involved with me.
Round 1.
Surely, if I'm really invested in cake, they want to try it more. If it's like going to be the key thing that they're booking, then it's got to be perfect.
So
You're suddenly going, fuck, yeah.
No, because honestly, I've had this discussion with so many people, and anyone who wants me to make their wedding cake, because they'll come to me because they like my style, they like what I do.
Yeah.
I have now, luckily, got a reputation behind me that I make good cakes. So reviews, things like that will tell you that I make good cakes.
She's her tone of voice has changed.
I got angrier too.
And the volume, actually.
Yeah.
I agree. No, don't get me wrong. I agree.
What if I tried it and then said, look, I've tried your cake and I don't like it now. Can I get my deposit back?
So I'm confident that it wouldn't happen ever.
So what you should be saying is, if you don't like it, you get your deposit back.
Fuck off.
Take it. I do get it. I get that because you do these. I've had one of your lovely little cake boxes of the different flavors, which I'm assuming you did for a wedding. It was at that wedding fair, yeah. So I get that it's easier to make a load like that. That's a hard
I tell
bit.
you why, and I'll tell you why, because
Is it also common for people not to?
I think what you'll find is a lot of people who are, don't hate me, running a cake business not as a business will give out lots of free shit.
Touche.
They'll give out lots of free cake and all of that, which if it then doesn't come to anything, they've lost a lot of money. Same as people who potentially do free consultations. You can spend an hour talking to someone who doesn't book.
Nobody comes to see me until they've paid a deposit.
Or pay for the consultation. That's how I used to do it. Because a lot of the time, if they want me, they'll book me.
It's not efficient. It's not viable to run a
I
business.
I think it depends on the business, though. I think it depends on the business.
Yeah,
model.
no, I agree.
Mine, I have to do a call at the start to find out about the
Do a
people.
call before you quote for the cake. How can you quote for the cake if you haven't spoken to them?
They'll give me like a guide of what they want, and I'll give them a price range, like of what it's going to be. And then
playing hard to get.
How many weddings do you do a year?
So I maximum take on 2 weddings a week at the most.
I thought you were going to say 2, and I was like, what the fuck? Obviously then.
2, 10 grand per wedding. No, maximum of 2 a week. But I'm not always, and obviously predominantly it tends to happen in the period over like April to September, although this year is a lot of December weddings.
There were,
yeah, loads. And sometimes if it's a painted cake, it'd be 1 a week because I can't accommodate more than that, like time wise to do it. But yeah, it's really hard. I completely understand both sides of the argument of I'd want to try a cake before I have it. I get that completely, but I'm also very confident that they're not going to dislike the cake. And every single time I've ever had anyone ask me for a cake prior to booking me, they either are shopping round and I hear, oh, we're just waiting for taste box from 3 other cake makers, which again, if you haven't really got a preference of how it looks and you just like, I just want a cake, people will do that. But generally, like I say, people who come to me want what I do.
Do other people not do what you do?
There'll obviously be people that have similar styles. There are other cake painters around the country, few and far between though. Yeah. Like one up north, one down south, that sort of thing. Not that paint the way I do necessarily, but can paint on cakes. And the design-led styles, people could potentially recreate one of my wedding cakes. They could send it to another cake maker, but whether they would do it to the same standard. Yeah. Like for example, somebody who wants a more design-led cake, if they don't have the budget to for me to travel down to London, I can suggest to you someone who could do that. But if it was a painted cake, which is why I travel around a lot with painted cakes, because there isn't really anyone else who can do that. So those are the ones I tend to travel a long way to deliver.
How far do you deliver?
Anywhere in the UK.
Is that not a red flag? Because I'd be like, I do not want to travel 5 hours.
The January Charlotte is like, yeah, and then when it comes to delivering it, I'm like, I hate my life.
Yeah.
But obviously I charge some people are paying as much for their delivery as they would for a wedding cake.
I get the same thing though.
Same here. Okay, back to my question.
What was that again?
The service. So
Yes,
what are we expecting then? Okay, so I've decided I want a cake.
You found 3 cake makers you like.
3 cake makers. I'm gonna send a lovely email. Can I jump on a call just to run through the cake and then process? How does it work?
I think, again, that completely varies depending on cake makers.
Mm-hmm.
Some people who are probably cheaper will offer a lesser service in the sense that there'll be like a few emails here and there. You might get a free tasting box. You might have a call or whatever. And they'll sort of give you some information. You book them. They bring you a wedding cake. Like that's kind of the level of what you get. With me personally, you get a consultation, and in the consultation it is like an exhaustive hour to an hour and a half. This consultation, you wouldn't believe you could talk that much about cake
in person or
on Zoom. Like always face to face. Like 100%. I want to speak to people.
I want to see your faces
exactly. And I want to, when I say, what do you think of this, I want to see what your reaction is. So they either come to my studio and have it there, and they get their tasters, but I don't make them eat them in front of me.
Yeah, that's awkward.
That's a big thing. I'm like, they get a luxury tasting box to take away and eat, or they get posted it if they have a Zoom. And we talk through everything to do with your wedding cake, but also your wedding and your cake cutting and how to get the money's worth from your wedding cake, because that's the one thing I always hear is people being like, I saw wedding cakes, but I've never eaten one because they just disappear and you never eat them. And
people do say
what's the point in it?
Yeah, a lot of people say that.
Yeah.
So I give a lot of advice of how you can make sure you get your money's worth for your wedding cake. You get a sketch of your wedding cake afterwards. So once you've got your final quote,
which I think is also
agreed
cute
on it,
because you can frame that.
100%. I leave it on the wedding day as like a gift.
Cute.
For the couple to have. So you'll have your sketch. The correspondence that I do is very professional in the sense that there's a lot of questionnaires. It's very like, I leave no stone unturned. You know where you sit. They'll never have questions about like, so how do you do this or what happens with that? Like, it is covered. Everything is covered. And then obviously, like I say, on the actual day, then I leave the sketch, the recipe, and they also get like a video of me making their wedding cake.
Oh, that's nice.
As well, because I record it all anyway, so why not?
I do. So you're selling it to me better now with the
It's an experience.
I agree. And if you like cake, 100%. Then I do. If I'm paying that money, I want to know everything. I want to know the whole thing. I think
it's a lovely activity to do. Say your partner's not that interested, but you and your mum can do it together because your mum's like, we have to have cake. When do you think cake should be served?
Okay, so served or cut? Because
both.
I have a different opinion on both.
I want both.
So I'm a massive advocate for early cake cuttings.
Agreed.
But not necessarily cut it up, but cut it.
Agreed.
Okay, why?
Because so you've got the issue of purple disco lights at 8 o'clock in the evening going around this beautiful cake that you've had made.
Mm-hmm. She is, I'm going to say spitting facts again, because this is
it's true.
Strong.
2 songs
Don't ruin my painted
your
purple disco.
I know, exactly.
And I agree,
it's got to be
put
light,
it,
natural light.
The DJ set is behind them, and I am always like, can we twist it? And they stand here because it just looks respectfully shit.
You want natural lighting.
Yeah.
If you've spent this money on a cake, get freaking good photos. The photographer usually does an amazing job of getting photos in the day anyway if it's set up. But if you want to do a cake cutting, and that's important, and I always say this to you don't have to, but if you want to do it earlier. Do it in your first look, which is something I always try and encourage them to do as well, because again, if you're spending loads of money on a cake, you want to see it before your guests. You want to see it first, especially the painted cakes. And I love the photos of people like being like, ooh, like seeing their painted cakes.
That doesn't look like my face.
Yeah, exactly. That's not me. That's not my dog. So I encourage that. Also, 2 songs deep in Mr. Brightside, tie around your head and lippy gone, not the same look as straight after your ceremony, just looking
fresh.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Demure.
So a drinks reception cake cut.
I like a first look cake cut. And I always say you can do it twice. Yeah, like a private one. You could do it twice. That is for your photos. Later's for your guests.
All right. Okay.
Do it at the back. Nobody sees it. It's not going to make any difference to anyone's life, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you want to actually then do it later with everyone looking and all, great. you've still got that experience
Of the nice,
everybody watching you cut your cake, and then it can be whisked away and taken off and cut up. And
When
I
do
say
you
to
want
people,
it-
you don't have to cut it up when you cut it.
Yeah.
You can even pretend. You don't put the knife in. Just do the whole.
When would you like it served then?
It depends. If you're having it as a dessert,
How do you feel about that?
not many people do nowadays. It rarely happens, because I just think like it's hard to serve cake as a pudding.
I'm waiting for you to say what I said the other week, and I actually didn't get as much hate as I thought I'd get. That it looks cheap having cake as dessert.
I think if you're going to do it, you have to have more than one flavour.
This is my point.
So
you end up with a little
have
slither.
3 flavours.
A trio
Almost
of
like,
cake?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like a trio of cakes for your dessert. Otherwise, how do you deal with like, you've got different flavours? If you have different flavours, who chooses what flavour? Do they pre-order the flavour? I have done this before where I actually got a list of how many people wanted each flavour. So I had to then accommodate the tiers and the cutting cakes for the amount of portions per flavour that everybody
logistics
needed.
of
That was 3,400.
Yeah.
That was extra just for the maths.
Yes.
God, you make me sound like I'm just fleecing people.
No, not at all.
I would
But
charge more if I
again,
had to
you
work
have-
out.
Again, if this is not ridiculous to request, that everything is possible, but it comes at a price.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to accommodate for the extra time that it's going to take for that. For
It's
example,
very different doing a 3-tier vanilla strawberry thing.
that people just cut
Then,
up. And,
yeah.
But so I normally what most people do is have it in the evening as like evening food pudding.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's not like everybody has a piece. If they don't, it's ruined the day.
Yes.
It's like when it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
Some people don't even cut their cake on their wedding day. Painted cakes, a lot of the time, they'll tell me the next day, like, we now have an 80 portion cake to do something with because we couldn't cut it.
Yeah.
I love it when they keep it and they're doing like a barbecue the day after where everyone can
Yes.
like enjoy it, because I do feel sorry that for the cake, because I feel
sorry,
like
cake.
you're like
The cake gets ignored.
5 gin and tonics in.
Yeah.
You've had,
And then if you are eating it, you're smashing it in your face
Yeah.
because you're so drunk that.
and then I'll be like, oh man, that cake's so
Yeah.
good, even if it isn't, because I'll be so drunk.
My current favourite, which I keep pushing lightly people towards, is doing encouraging is to do the cake cutting at the end of the wedding breakfast or at the start of the wedding breakfast, any point in that bit.
Yeah.
And then I want cocktails and cake.
Ooh,
I want
yes.
that cocktail hour with some cake.
Cake and
I want
cock.
it to be I want it to just
Cake
be
and cock.
cute. Yeah. What? Oh, cock.
Charlotte said it, not
I
me.
didn't.
I didn't
Beth
hear
said it
your
first.
one.
Beth said it first.
I'm for it. But so that it gets its again. If you're spending the money on it, let's make it a
I
big
do agree,
deal.
yeah.
If you don't care, then just don't have. My problem is when people say I don't really care about the cake, we're just going to get a £400 one from this cake maker, blah blah blah. We're not going to cut it and just stick it out in the evening. I'm like that's a waste of money.
No, I do agree with that. I do agree with
Look at
that.
us.
I'm not
Look at
disagreeing
us.
on that. I think like and this is why I go through with people how to get your value,
Yeah.
how to get your money's worth from your cake, how to make sure people eat it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're going to be ending up with a load of cut cake the next morning you come down, which may be highly hungover, but otherwise it's not tasting great anymore. With the best will in the world, I
Yeah.
can make you a good moist cake, but not if it's the next
4
morning.
days later. Yeah.
So that is important. But then with the barbecue thing the next day, a lot of my couples, I encourage them to keep a tier
Yeah.
of their cake for them to have the next day, because a lot of the time the couple don't actually get to join in all the fun things they plan on their weddings,
Yeah.
like the canapes, all of this, because they're getting pulled from pillar to post. So I'm usually sort of saying like, why don't you just keep that top tier? Serves like 10 small,
Yeah.
8
I always
big
ask my couples
portions.
if they're I normally tell people to save half of each tier.
100%.
So that then if we need it
I
in the
think
day,
she heard that
we'll-
on my handover guide when
Did
she,
you?
yeah,
Which wedding?
many of them.
Yeah.
Do we need
And
to
then
be,
give out more if we need it.
100%.
do we need to be teaching people how to cut cakes?
So this is where I might annoy people. A good cake maker will provide a cutting guide for a cake to the venue or whoever's cutting it up. Because the irony is, back again.
No, I was thinking. I remember I made a video. We talked
Yes,
about it,
we
and I
did.
made a video.
We did.
And I'm trying to remember.
Did you give me one?
No. I was
Did
trying
I
to think,
follow it?
I
Probably
was trying
not.
to think. Did I message you saying you didn't fucking tell me what tier to cut? But that's not what happened. You actually told me about someone that cut it wrong and it fell over.
Yeah.
Lol. Tell us that story, please.
So I make a lot of floating tier cakes, which Georgie's a fan of. She's already used it in her description once. She doesn't like cake. She likes fake
I know the
floating
cake.
tier
Yeah,
cakes.
yeah. Give me a fake cake.
So I make a lot of floating tier cakes, and in a
Explain
floating,
that to- yeah.
So what that is basically like you might have a couple of tiers of cake, and then there's this contraption. Looks like some sort of, when you see it with the spikes and things in, it looks like some sort of torture device. And
It does.
I have got a lot of stick for that as well, because people smash faces into cakes. Not
Don't
these-
smash faces into
not
cakes then.
these sorts of cakes, they don't. Believe me, I can reassure you. And basically it's got 2 plates and a bar in the middle, and you put the plate on the top of the bottom tier, and then you put a plate on the underneath the top tier. You cover the bar with something, and it has the illusion that it's floating, which is a real cool effect without actually having to kind of add more cake or like a lot more expense, really, because it's not a lot more work. But I did have a couple once who had this, and I have to explain to my couples with these cakes how you cut them, because most people logically would look at this cake and cut it from top to bottom with that bottom tier.
Yeah.
Like it would make sense to start at the top, cut down, but there is a metal plate on the top of that bottom tier. And this particular couple, they were doing it with a sword. It was a military wedding. Obviously, it was late. There were purple disco lights, I think, going on at this time, so you can tell the time. And yeah, they were trying to cut through the metal plate at the end of a meter-long sword swaying. And the cake just went timber, because obviously they couldn't cut through the metal plate because it was a metal plate. So the cake literally went down. Credit, they still ate it all.
Yeah.
Nice.
The great thing about fondant and ganache underneath is it's a
Pretty solid.
shell.
Yeah.
So yeah, they still ate it all. But yeah, so if you're having a floating tier cake, cut in and down. In and down, guys, in and down.
Top tips.
But a lot of cake makers don't leave that, because there's a lot of times where I have to look at it and be like, I know one of these are like, it's not a floating one, but I know like it's 4 tiers.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's no way that they've bought 4 tiers of it, because there's 60
you
people.
should. That's the thing. Like, you should, as a cake maker, when you do your handover at a wedding venue, you should be telling whoever's cutting that cake up, whether it's a family member at a marquee wedding or whether it's the venue catering team. I always say who's going to be cutting the cake.
Yeah.
And I make sure that my handover guide, which again, my cakes are all different shapes and sizes. They might be cut differently. I've promised the couple and a quantity they're getting out of their cake. So I need to make sure that I'm doing my due diligence and saying, this is how you
to
cut
get
it
80
to get that number, otherwise you're going to get 40 portions.
Yeah.
But things with the floating tier as well, they'll get a deconstruction guide to tell them, because I'd look at that if I didn't and be like, where do I start? Because it's completely like covered. You can't see what it looks like underneath. So there is like, I will give them a guide of like how you take it apart, you know, what you need to do with it afterwards and everything. And again, this is something I think is really important for making sure that the customer gets what they're asking for.
Yeah.
And
they don't, as a couple, you don't remember what you've been told. You just need somebody to stand there and go, you cut in here. Yeah. Don't forget to cut here.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it's really important, and the venues are so grateful for it.
Yeah.
Because I always think, do they even look at the cutting guide? But when you've got a weird shaped cake, they will.
Oh, 100%. I wouldn't look at it for just a 3-tier.
No, exactly.
Round, ribboned.
But then the question, most people still think that you cut a wedding cake like triangles.
I worked with a caterer once, and they started cutting it like that, and I was like,
what are you doing?
I was like, what? I was like, do you want me to cut the cake? AKA, let me cut the cake. But I was like, when have you ever seen cake cut like that?
Yeah.
Apart from at a child's birthday party. And even then I wouldn't cut my daughter's cake like that.
This is the argument I always have. I don't argue with my clients. I advise them. Whenever anyone says like, I don't like fondant, I don't want fondant on my cake, I'm like, are you eating the whole cake?
Yeah.
Yeah. I pick the edge piece, you'd have the middle.
100%. There will be people who love the covering and they will eat the outside pieces, and there'll be people who don't and they'll like have the inside pieces. Like that, it's a cake to please everyone, basically. So it's not important. What's more important is how it stays up all day and doesn't fall over.
The amount of weddings that I've done where I've had to save cakes is silly.
Horrible.
It's always the thing.
So basically, you could be my apprentice and be a cake designer. I
can paint.
But the worst thing is, people look at me to do it when I'm doing the decor. And I'm like,
they do always seem to look to like venue dresses.
And I was like, they're like, Beth, have you seen the cake? And I'm like, I'm not coordinating this one. That's my problem. If I'm
Georgie.
Do you know what the scariest part is? What time will that be of the day? The wedding hasn't even started at that point. You're still setting up, and a cake's not stood up for long enough to just last until they at least get back into the room.
You would have been so proud of me. I made a cake once. I didn't. Hold on, let me explain. The cake maker had the wrong day, and she brought me dummy cakes and all the decor, and she was like, "This is the sketch I've done. Make that." And she then ran home to bake the cake. We absolutely nailed it, to be fair, because she then brought back a cake and we did a switch over on the dance floor. Nobody knew about it, but I like fully had to
Did you
decorate
tell the couple
a cake.
or not?
So I didn't tell the couple because I was like, they didn't need to know. But the next day the cake maker came and she texted me saying, why is the cake maker apologizing to me? And I was like, all right, I tell you now. I was like, lol, we swapped it. But the cake, I felt awful for her because she'd obviously sent the information.
All human.
She'd sent the information with the date that it was the phone call was my favorite. It's because because I always ask what time it's coming, and they'll be like, oh, it's going to be there before 3.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to start calling at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
So I'm like, cool, it gets to like 2:30, and I'm like, they're coming in this room soon. Like, I need this cake. So I rang, and I was like, oh, it's so and so's
I can
wedding.
imagine her like whole life.
But she literally
dropped.
went, oh no, I've got it for next Saturday. I was like, oh, it's today, and she's like, no, I think it's next Saturday. And I was like, I've just seen them get married. Like, I'm 100% sure it's 7, but I felt I felt like her whole stomach was just falling. Like, and I was like, however I can help you. And she absolutely nailed it by managing to get a cake there.
Yeah.
And we literally took it into this cupboard because they were going to cut it in the wedding breakfast. So I was like, oh, we've changed it. We'll do it on the dance floor. Because there was no cake. You wouldn't cut that. It's all polystyrene. Changed it in the cupboard and then put it out on the dance floor. So they just cut it.
Yeah.
Happy as Larry. Like,
You're
but
good.
that's when a cake maker was brilliant. She fucked it up, but then was like, they'll
You're
still
a
have a cake.
professional. Like the whole point of if you drop a cake, you know how to deal with it. Sort of situation. That's why you book someone who knows what they're doing.
Yes.
So if things like that do happen, you like, it's okay, we'll sort it.
It's when I turn
Have
up
a cry
somewhere.
first,
Yeah, a
and then
little
we'll
cry,
sort it.
and then bake the cake, please.
Yeah.
But the amount of times when it says the friggin' semi-naked cakes is June, and it's like
Buttercream
60,
covered,
and I'm like,
yeah.
that will never last. Like, even the best cake maker in the world,
I don't
you should be
use
saying,
buttercream.
I can't do that. It's not going to work for June.
This is the thing. Like, so I don't use buttercream to cover cakes at all.
Yeah.
I don't.
So do you just do fondant?
Ganache.
Okay.
Or ganache and fondant.
What's just ganache look like?
Like buttercream.
Okay, fine.
So you can have exactly the same looking cake as a buttercream cake, but it's white chocolate ganache instead.
Fine.
I mean, it's chocolate. It's going to be better.
Yeah. And then the other is the like fondant icing. Like,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
say kids' birthday cakes because that's the only
What
way.
people like the roll like icing. Sugar paste.
Yes, sugar paste.
Which actually, if you get a really good quality sugar paste, it tastes awesome.
I'm gonna look at the questions that everyone sent in. I feel like we need some tips, maybe, and
Okay.
maybe some red flags.
I'd like to
From
start with
Charlotte.
red flags. I'm newly engaged. I'm contacting cake companies. Tell me 3 things that they could say that would be a red flag.
Yes to anything and everything you ask for.
Okay.
Like, to me, there are limitations. Like we were saying about the buttercream, there are limitations to a wedding. So I think if it's almost like, yes, I can do anything. I'll do whatever you want. That is going to be a red flag because what is it? What's the phrase? Master of, what's it?
Jack of all trades, master of none. But that's
Like-
not the whole saying. Would you like me to finish it?
No, I don't want to hear the rest because I just like that phrase.
Fun fact, guys, Google it. It actually carries on.
But that is the thing. Like, you almost want somebody, and if somebody comes across, they don't talk about pricing quite early on. Like, why?
Yeah.
Why are people cagey? Is it because we're British? I
Yeah.
don't know. But why are people cagey about talking about pricing?
Do you have pricing on your website?
Yeah.
Good.
I have starting prices and I have minimum spends.
I just think
on
it's
my
a waste
website.
of time for anybody if they're like, I've
It's
got
a waste of
£300.
their time. It's a waste of our time. Like, you want to know if you haven't got a budget for the minimum spend, don't bother contacting that cake maker because you are wasting your time.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get an email that's like, this is my minimum spend, and you're going to go, I don't want to spend that. Absolutely fine. But anyone who doesn't sort of be very transparent with their pricing, it's normally because they're not confident about their pricing a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Why not be? What other wedding suppliers do you see that don't tell you exactly?
How much it costs?
As a bespoke product, you can't give exact prices, but you can give guides.
Yeah.
You can give guides to what you're going to do. Other red flags. Oh God, that's hard actually. You would say not having tastings before you.
Do you know what I would have said? But maybe that's my planner brain because I don't want it all on me.
If it's not
nice, I would
Yeah.
say to a couple, here's people I recommend. I've tried their cake. I like their cake, but
I would also say, like, do your research.
yeah.
Look at their socials. Look at their website.
I do
look
agree
at
with your
their
comments on the reviews and stuff.
Look at their Google reviews, whatever source, on their websites and things, because they do speak volumes. 100% with any wedding supplier. That's not just cakes. Look at their reviews.
What would you say about companies that are just starting out though?
So it's funny because in the cake industry, you get 2 types of wedding cake makers when they start out in the industry. You get the ones who have never had like a baking business and they go, I'm going to be a wedding cake maker. And a lot of the time, to be fair to them, they do all of the like pre-training. They get their shit together.
Yeah.
And then they launch a wedding cake business and they launch with great cakes.
Yeah.
Like really, really good cakes. And then you get the other side, which are people who do occasion cakes, who done a couple of wedding cakes for family and friends. Like, this could, and they kind of slowly work their way into the industry. Those are the ones that it's a bit harder because it is such a big difference. You eventually kind of end up as a wedding cake maker. Like it's almost like that's the road to it because you can't fit in occasion cakes, but you still need to have that knowledge of how to make very different type of cakes and the service that you should be offering for a wedding.
So we should be asking,
where's your background?
How long you've been doing this portfolio?
I think a lot of the time, and again, this is dependent on whether you prioritize your cake, definitely. But if you go on their socials and you can only spot a few wedding cakes in there, between lots of bluey cakes and cocoa melon, you know, that's an occasion cake maker who's done a couple of wedding cakes, probably for people they know.
And the price should reflect that, or we go in knowing this.
If I only want to spend £300, I like the look of their cakes.
I'm willing to do the rest.
And this is where I'm saying, like, you don't not get them, but if you're going in with the sort of like, I want,
this is the feature of my wedding.
This is a really important part. Go for someone who's sharing wedding cakes and regular wedding cakes, because that means they're doing it regularly. If they're sharing one wedding cake in, you know, peak wedding season, and they've shared like 2 wedding cakes, they're probably not doing it regularly. And
or they're just not getting content. Because this is the other thing.
Why wouldn't they be getting content?
This is my problem. I speak to some suppliers and they're like, oh, we're just not very good at social media. And I'm like, you kind of have to
Unfortunately, nowadays you have to be.
Or you get someone to help you.
Exactly. There's so many resources.
I did a photo shout for you once. Took photos of you setting up a cake.
I made her like spend an hour of her day just videoing me doing stuff.
Glad she was busy.
Why wasn't I? I think I got there early.
But I think
chilling. It was a good wedding.
Yeah, you did. It was a good wedding actually.
That cake was blue.
It was.
Yeah.
Was that the marble blue one?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. That was the nude one that had the like acrylic tier in, wasn't it? And it had the blue groom's cake with it.
Oh yeah,
like,
it had 2 cakes.
Cake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you got questions? I've got questions too. I put on mine as well.
Just like really waiting to ask them.
These are like quick fire.
Okay.
Ish.
Okay.
Are these from people?
Yes.
Okay.
Real people.
Any tips for edible pearls that aren't really crunchy? Haha.
Don't have edible pearls.
Okay. Cool.
No, there isn't. There literally isn't. Other than having it like piped.
They do hurt your teeth.
You could go like piped royal icing instead.
Yeah.
But I'm not a big fan of like the whole loads of pearls on a cake because teeth issues.
Yeah.
How much
got some
do
savage
guests
questions.
actually eat? Don't want a 3-tiered cake for no one to eat it.
I agree with that. So another red flag is a cake maker who upsells.
Yes.
So they shouldn't be selling you a cake that's, if you're doing it like for an evening cutting, they shouldn't be selling you a cake that serves everybody.
So if I've got 100 guests, how
80
many
portions is absolutely fine.
Okay.
The majority, not everyone.
All right.
How do you make sure people eat it? Take the cake to them. Like a lot of the time what happens is it gets shoved in a corner, like in a room. Nobody knows it's there. Do a lap of the room with the tray. Ask one of your bridal party, somebody who's responsible and not falling over at that time of night.
Or your caterers.
Exactly. Well, you can ask. Sometimes they might charge, but it's worth an ask. Do a lap of the room. Take cake to people. They will eat it.
Yeah.
But if it's in a corner, they might. Only the cake lovers will be like, finding
I
it.
do agree. It's always somewhere. It's like always with a guest book, and like people don't do the guest book
once they
either.
filled the guest book in, they're not going back there.
No. I did a wedding once and it was
On the
on
bar.
the bar.
Yeah.
And it was like people ordered their drinks, had a bit of cake. I was like, love
On
that.
the bar, somewhere with high footfall. So if it's like a nice day and people are going in and out constantly, put it by that door.
Yeah.
Because people just grab it as they go in and out.
You need to see it. It's like I said.
I agree.
I always say it's
I
about
wouldn't
the
go and
photo,
find
like
it.
a photo booth. It needs to be in a wall
100%
for it to be used.
Yeah.
Is it normal to have to pay per person per slice to cut it?
For cutting cakes. Oh, well, you put one on the recently about this, didn't you?
Yeah.
So it's funny because one thing I talk about in my consultation with my couples is I always say to them, check with your venue. They don't charge to cut your cake.
Yeah.
I don't work with any venues that do.
Okay.
And I would blacklist them.
Yeah.
Because I think, okay, maybe they might charge like a crockery charge if you're putting it on crockery and forks and that. But to actually physically cut up your cake, you've paid enough money.
Yeah.
And if they're going to charge you, get your mum to do it. Get somebody to do it for you. Don't be asking the venue to do it.
I'm a
and
dick
make them
like you.
charge.
I'll be like, I'll cut it for free.
Yeah.
I just need to use a kit.
I just
the
think
workspace.
it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. If you had like a 12-tier wedding cake, nobody would have that as a real cake, by the way. Then maybe it's going to take them hours. Would you ever
pre-cut? You know, when you send the baking, like the cakes in the back. Would you ever send that cut up?
So I don't normally. I usually score them. So it's really easy to see like exactly where to cut up. But I can. In the past, I have done,
Because you're petty. Like if they said they're going to charge loads, you'd be like, I'll cut it ready. Yeah. Have a dummy cake. And then all of this cut in the back.
If your venue are going to charge you an extortionate amount, pay me to just come back.
Yeah.
And cut it up for you. I'll do that.
Venues let you do that. Yeah. This is the problem.
They
like,
can't stop you.
I agree, but like they do.
And if they've got a coordinator or a planner, a lot of the time that person will be the one that will cut up the cake anyway, so that kind of solves the issue.
And the thing is, if there's rules on it, like I'm only there till a certain time. I'll cut if I'm there. I'll cut it.
Yeah.
If you want me to stay an extra 3 hours to cut it in the evening, that would cost.
Exactly, yeah.
But we cut it at this point, and then I can cut it then, and then it's good to go. Like
But not many venues do charge nowadays. And if they do,
Is a giant Colin Caterpillar acceptable?
No.
Oh my God, I love Colin the
Have you not seen the ones
Do
where
you know
they
what I
have the
will
little mini bride
say?
and
Somebody
grooms?
actually in a consultation said this to me the other day. They said the only wedding I've been to recently, they had like a Colin the Caterpillar, but the mini ones as well.
Yeah, they got
to
little
go
bride
with
and
it.
groom
Yeah.
ones.
What I would say is, if it's the option between that and just a really boring wedding cake, I'd actually go for that.
Yeah.
Because I think if you're going to do it, add a bit of personality to it, rather than, like I say, it just being literally a tick box for the sake of having a cake because it's a wedding.
Yeah.
I'd actually prefer to see that than
A basic house.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
just think like at least that's injecting a little bit of your personality
Yeah.
into it.
Oh,
So
fine.
I'm not massively against it, but also
I feel like you wouldn't be a Colin Caterpillar
I love Colin the Caterpillar.
not
at your
a
wedding.
I love Colin the Caterpillar.
Do you know what? I've never tried a Colin the Caterpillar.
They're not great.
Oh my God, they're the best. Are you
Nah, I don't
joking?
like Swiss roll.
You're a freak.
You're a freak. I'd rather cake. It's like
I
it's quite
can't
dry.
believe- I can't believe you don't like carrot cake. Like, you're a freak.
Do you know what I actually did once? So I shouldn't say this
I hate
publicly
cinnamon.
because then it gives an expectation of something. But sometimes with some of my couples, if there's like something that maybe we're not including in the cake but is almost a little something. So for example, there was once a couple who they said, could we have Colin the Caterpillar? And I was like, no. And we did the cake. So I couldn't buy them. I made them, didn't tell them,
Cute.
didn't charge them, completely free, 2 little caterpillars. And then on the morning of the wedding they had that. So sometimes there'll be little things, like in passing they'll say in their consultation that we can't really accommodate in the cake, but I'm like, we'll do
That's
that.
what I mean. I think there's a way of doing everything. I think, I wouldn't go to you to make a Colin Caterpillar thingy because it's just not the vibe.
I mean,
But if
I
you
would
are
ask
that,
you, because I take the piss.
Yeah,
and
you do.
would
I mean,
ask you.
there's sculpted cakes like of your dog full size, but not Colin the Caterpillar.
I'd really want that of Cooper.
I'd love that.
Could you do that?
Yeah,
If I get married,
full size next to the
Cooper.
wedding cake, like the dog, and then an actual like 8-year
Cooper
wedding
is
cake.
our whole entire world, so
He'd have to be on the cake.
Yeah,
100%.
There's no way you'd have that
I
at your
would.
wedding though.
I would.
I think she'd have an elegant cake, but she'd have him on there like discreetly
At the
painted
back.
on.
No,
That's what I mean.
I'd have
discreetly
I want a
painted.
life-size version of it.
But it just wouldn't match your styling.
yeah, but it doesn't have to be in the room. It can be in.
Oh
another
right,
room.
okay. So it's
But
in a
it would
locked
look,
room.
it
at
would
the-
look realistic
I'm
enough
gonna
that it
walk
doesn't
in
look
like
like a
this.
cake.
Yeah. I feel like it could be in your evening. I feel like your evening would be more fun.
Your evening cake.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's make that a thing.
That people don't like it though because then they have to cut up their dog.
Oh.
People don't think about this before.
Where
they
would you stab
have
them in
their
the
dog.
heart and down, or across the head?
Head off normally.
Horrible.
They're your 2 options, mate.
You are horrible.
They are your 2 options. You cut him from the top down, or you going in and down.
No, you remove the head.
No. Cooper, close your ears, my darling.
I have more questions. Is it cheaper to have fake cake?
No.
This always comes up.
This is a massive
Why?
question. Okay, it is fractionally cheaper.
I
but
don't
it
want
is-
any real cake. I just want a display one.
It's literally fractional, depending on the size of your cake. If you're talking an 8-tier, I keep giving Beth a look when I do this. An 8-tier wedding
Stay
cake.
tuned, everybody.
Yes, 100%. It's going to be cheaper to have dummies.
Yeah, but my argument
Okay.
is, right, I want a dummy cake. I fully appreciate I need to pay for time and the materials and all that skill. But where's my saving of the egg, flour, sugar,
Milk. What else is in a cake?
lotus spread?
There we go.
Do you know what I mean? Like, where's my saving there?
Yeah, no, I agree. This is why there are some cake makers out there who will be like, there is no difference in cost. There is, but it's not what people think it
Not
is.
substantial.
Yeah.
I guess
it's not substantial
You've
enough.
also booked out that day. You can't then do another cake on that day. So you've got to.
But it's not substantial enough for it to almost be worth having no cake.
Yeah.
So the dummies cost money. People will argue and say the dummies are really expensive. They're not unless you start getting massive on
How
the
much is a
tiers.
dummy tier?
Like for a 3-tiered, like for an 8-inch dummy cake, for example, I think it's like £5.50.
And do you reuse those?
No.
Not if they go to a wedding because I wouldn't pick them up.
You
So
wouldn't
that
go
would
back
be
for it.
that
Okay.
would be done. But the thing that it saves time on is the baking, the filling, the leveling.
Yeah.
If you do like buttercream or ganache finished cakes, dummies are actually practically harder to use because they haven't got the weight.
Oh, don't worry about me and my 8-tier cake that I want. It's all dummy then.
No, but it's fondant, so we're all right.
Oh, okay, we're all
if
good.
it's fondant, which is what I predominantly do, it's actually easier. I don't have to make the ganache. I don't have to do a layer of ganache. I just straight onto a dummy.
What is she
What's
moaning
I
about?
said this to you, mate.
8 tiers, dummy cake, fondant.
You can carry it in one hand.
But oh god, just the weight of the dummies alone.
We had
is
a
enough.
dummy cake at the tour last year, and I think
Georgie
there's a
was
picture of
dancing
me
like
like
this.
stood around with
Was
the...
it 8 tiers?
No.
Exactly.
I can't remember what it was.
So what I would say
3.
is it might be fractionally cheaper depending on who you go to. Some cake makers will say it's not, but the majority of what you pay for with a wedding cake is the time it takes to decorate it. And that still is the same. That doesn't change.
Okay.
So for a small cake, it's not going to make a massive amount of difference because the actual ingredients cost
save me
is not
£100?
massively high. It depends how the size of the cake.
I want 3 tiers. I want my floating... Oh, you can't do a floating fake one, can you?
Yeah.
Well, all dummy?
Yeah.
How does it hold the weight?
There's no weight to hold.
Dummies, you
No,
don't have to add
the
dowels.
floating... You know the floating tier? They're quite heavy. They're metal, aren't they?
Yeah.
Would it not... It's like polystyrene.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I picture that tipping over.
You don't
know
have
how
to
hard
dowel a polystyrene cake.
No. But you've got the bit, you've got the thing, and the thing, and then this.
You could put a real cake on top of polystyrene cake. Absolutely fine.
Really?
Yeah.
I would have thought that metal bit would have like tipped it over.
I'm going to throw a polystyrene cake at you, and
All
you'll
right.
see how.
Did you see the
stable
cake
they are.
throwing?
Please do. Can I watch it and video it?
I want to do the cake smash thing that people do on...
Not on the 8 tier.
On the what?
8 tier.
8-tier cake.
Oh yeah, no, it needs a sheet cake.
Charlotte asked if we wanted to cut our cake.
Ugh.
Fraud.
I actually
hate-
think, for the sake of Georgie absolutely hating it, I would like that for content, please.
Yeah, okay. I can do that for you. Can you bring a knife? You got a knife?
Yeah, we're gonna need a stand, a knife, the
ain't
fake
getting a stand
tea-
big
the
enough to
fake
fit that thing
getting
on.
thing.
How
I
big is
just-
the actual bottom of it?
So the bottom, nobody even knows what you're talking about here, by the way. The bottom is 18 inches.
That's the cake I've requested
Sorry.
from Charlotte for Birmingham tour.
If you see the Birmingham tour cake and it looks ridiculously massive, that's what she's
Blame
talking about.
It's because they just came to me with this stupid request. Beth came to me with a stupid
But
request.
can I not say it's going to be the talking point and everyone's going
I
to use
agree.
the photos? And
It's going to be
amazing.
fantastic. I agree.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make sure I look even prettier that day so you can have even better photos.
I mean, I'm struggling to find a dress that matches it. That's what I'm trying to find at the
I
moment.
haven't even started looking at it.
I mean, it's not going to be 7-inch tall dress because
la.
you know.
I would like to... I'm going to go back to questions, but I would like to talk about a cake cutting. How do
Okay.
you feel about a cake cutting? Did you have wedding cake?
Yes.
Did you cut it?
I had 4 tiers fake, 1 tier real.
So you had a 5-tier cake.
Mm-hmm.
Did you cut it?
Yes.
Did you hate it?
Didn't mind it. I don't really have an opinion. Do you know what I think? What? Yeah, just stab each other.
Yeah.
What I think is, if you're gonna do it, make it fun.
Yeah.
Like, whether that's put music on, get a confetti cannon.
Oh,
you know,
cute.
do you know what I mean? Like, make it fun.
Oh my God, a confetti
Yeah, I've
cannon.
never done a confetti cannon during a cake.
Oh,
Now I'll do
you know
it.
what we're doing now on the
Are we
tour
allowed to
date?
do London, Birmingham?
Yeah, we've got white confetti for
Oh,
Birmingham.
perfect. We'll do one for the cake cutting then.
And we
Great
got
idea. I now have to
And we
put a
got
real
the
section of cake
big
in your
ones.
fake cake.
Yeah, I'd like it. Can you not put too high?
I'm gonna put it on the top tier. You have to stand on the table.
You
No,
go
I'll
on my
put it-
shoulders.
I'll put it on the bottom tier, just a small little cutting section.
What are we putting the Birmingham cake on? I know this is actually a general topic.
A
as well.
table.
You'd like a
please.
table? Not my nice table. I've got a bigger base that I can put on top of it.
Not too tall a table, because this thing is whopping.
Yeah, but it's cool, right?
What, a bigger base?
I'll show you.
Yeah.
I'll show you after.
Okay,
But what are we
chat.
putting cakes on?
Yeah,
at
do you like
venues?
plinths? How do you feel about
Cake
plinths?
stands,
I like a plinth.
plinths.
Do you not like a plinth?
They're just...
Don't
it's when you...
fucking
No,
point
no,
at
no.
me.
You do plinths.
I don't ask. I don't tell people to get plinths. People ask me for plinths.
Do you not like a cake on a plinth?
I love
We're gonna
cakes
fall
on
out.
plinths,
Yeah, but when it's my
but
plinth,
you have
I've
to
got the
cut
pressure.
it. And they're not... It's not a table.
I've left by that point.
You don't give a fuck. Cut it, ruin it, I
Imagine
don't
being
care.
me. I provide the
Yeah.
plinth.
I love a well-dressed cake setup. And again, another thing I talk at my consultations is like, what's it going to look like?
Yeah.
Because first thing that is you've got to have, it's an absolutely no compromise, is a cake stand. Like, that is a no compromise. The
Really?
cake has to be on a
Disagree.
stand. Not if it's on a plinth.
She's pointing at me.
Not if it's on a plinth. But if it's on just
Not
a
on a plinth.
table, it has to be on a stand. Because otherwise...
How do you feel about
my
log
nice-
slices?
What about my nice table downstairs? Does that need a...
What, your ridged one?
Yeah.
No, that would be all right, because it's basically a plinth. It's the same thing.
Fair.
Thank you.
A log slice in context, I don't mind. So if they've got a very rustic cake,
They're just
and the venue's
never
very
straight.
rustic, that's because I hire my own, because I know that it's flat,
Yeah.
straight, and level. Otherwise, you need a lot of cardboard.
I love a cake stand, but it freaks me out cutting the cake. Yeah,
on a cake stand.
I'm like, oh, don't wobble,
I do
wobble.
I get that.
I'm like, oh. You see it like go like that, and you're like, fuck.
The cakes are, when they're made well, as we've already had a discussion about, they're very resilient if they're made well.
Yeah, it's
And
not smooth,
cake
guys.
stands, if they are quality cake stands, so I hire cake stands, and I'd say 99% of my couples will use a cake stand from me, because their options normally at a venue are a log slice or like the silver platter. If you want my
I
cake,
hate those so
that is my
much.
biggest cake.
Yeah.
It is one of those.
I had someone have one from Shein or Temu the other day, and they put it together and it was just wobbling, and I was like, no.
This is the problem.
No,
People
no,
don't
no, 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 no.
understand. A quality cake stand is expensive. They're
Yeah.
spenny. Like, and not as in to hire, but for
To
venues,
buy.
and this is why venues don't do it, is because they are actually not cheap
But
to
also,
buy a decent cake stand.
you've got to get the right size. And then it's
100%.
annoying because nobody checks what size the cake stand is.
This is why venues do go down the route of like a log slice and a silver platter, because they get like a 16-inch silver platter
Yeah.
to cover every size cake.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
if you're then putting on like a lovely, slim, tall, elegant, modern 8-inch bottom tier cake, it just looks
Okay.
weird. So
All
cake
your-
stand is a must unless it's on a plinth.
All you're doing is nailing down to me that if I'm not spending proper money on a cake, I'm just not doing it. That's how I feel. Because even if you're buying a cheap, crappy one, we still need the stand for it to go on. Otherwise, you might just don't have one.
But then you hire a stand.
Yeah.
It's not hard.
Yeah, but who from? We can't hire a stand from you for my M&S cake.
No, I'm afraid I won't do that.
Yeah, see?
It's not being seen on one of my stands.
Yeah.
There we go.
And then you get tagged in it.
If we could go out to all venues here and say, let's all get some really nice cake stands, I don't mind not hiring. I don't do it for the money purposes.
Yeah.
I do it for the aesthetics. It's like having a £6,000 wedding dress and then buying a pair of pumps off Shein. Do you know what I mean? Like, and wearing that as your wedding shoot. Like you need
Not from Shein.
But this is the thing,
bought
like
shoes,
you
not
need
pumps.
to, if you're buying an expensive cake, make it look amazing, finish it off properly.
Fab.
Yeah, I totally agree. I agree. If you're spending the money,
So
we spend
much
the money.
pointing going on
I
today.
feel quite passionately
Passionate.
about this.
More
Yeah.
passion, more footwork.
More energy. I've got more questions. These are like quick fire.
Okay.
No, they're not yes or no, but I need just like bam.
Okay.
Are character cakes too far?
Yes.
Do people actually eat it?
Yes.
Do you need one?
Not everyone will want one
What's the actual point of them?
to eat.
What's
and
the
look
best
nice.
flavour?
Oh,
Ooh. My favourite carrot.
Oh, yes. Is it worth having different flavoured tiers?
Yes.
yes.
Do it every time.
How long before the wedding should we order a cake?
Oh,
If you want to get the cake maker you want, at least a year.
What's the least the least popular flavour?
fruit.
Probably lemon and blueberry.
Why are they so expensive?
Exactly everything we've talked about in this podcast.
Cool. Pros and cons for buying versus making.
You will underestimate how long and how much stress is involved in making a wedding cake if you make it yourself. 100%.
Do you need to do a tester? I feel like if I was considering making a wedding
Yeah,
cake, I'm going to make the
practice.
whole thing.
What I would say to anyone who's thinking of making their own wedding cake, and like I say, if that's what you want to do, you do you, is learn how to make a cake first.
Yeah.
Whether that's tutorials, watch a lot of YouTube, go on TikTok lives, whatever, seek advice, because it's a lot of stress to have it fall over on your wedding day. So if you're going to do it and you don't want to pay £600 for a wedding cake, then pay less for a class of how to make your wedding cake.
Yeah.
And that way you can actually produce something that's worth you bothering doing, is what I would advise.
Fair. How much do I really need to keep for the day after the wedding?
As much as you want to eat. If you're big cake people, keep more. If you're not, have it all gone on the night.
Ideas for a wedding cake if it isn't a big priority for you, going abroad to Greece.
Something small, single tier.
Yeah.
You could go down that route. It doesn't have to be big. It can still be wedding-y.
But do you like?
No. Right.
Okay.
Any more
What's
questions?
the point? Yeah. What's the point in one tier?
For a cake.
I don't
You just don't see it.
I don't do many of them, but it's because it's usually the people who still want to have like a cake cutting,
Yeah.
but they don't want all the cake.
Do you do heart-shaped cakes?
I've never done one. Do you like them?
I like
them. I do. It depends on the
I
vibe.
feel like they've been overdone.
How do you feel about a single tier on top of like donuts?
Top of donuts
No.
or brownies.
Move on.
Not too bad. Cupcakes, no.
I haven't seen a cupcake at a wedding in a very.
Oh,
But then
I have.
easier to eat.
No, they're not.
Wow.
They are. You take the
They're
bottom
too
off, put it on
big.
top.
My bride
They're
did
too
it
big.
for gluten-free.
I'm okay with that.
They're
I'm
too
on board with
big.
Right.
Like, that's a massive portion.
I just want 3 tips for what people should be considering when they're booking their cake maker.
Okay. So is it a priority? And if it is a priority, think about the aesthetic and particularly what you really like the look of, what sort of style you like. If it's not a priority, look at other options. Second tip when you're thinking of booking it, if you have a cake maker, any supplier, but cake maker that you really want to book, just book them. Book them as soon as you've got the venue booked and you've got a date. Just do it. And make sure you book someone who, like I say, is regular at weddings so that you don't have any form of upset based on the fact that they're not actually used to what they're doing and they're probably not as good at getting you a cake there that stands up for long enough.
I have one final question for you.
Okay.
What is the biggest horror story
Oh my God.
or any tea you would like to spill?
Basically, I've just
on the
sold
podcast?
myself for the last however long and now you want me to tell people
Hey,
what
it doesn't
I've
need
done
to
wrong.
be doesn't need to be you. It
Yeah, it
could be
doesn't
a
need to
story
be-
you've heard in your little industry.
Little in your little industry.
I meant like
section of the industry.
yeah, I meant the section of the industry.
little weddings that you
No,
do.
but when I said that, it was like that's not what I meant. But I didn't want to be like.
I'll tell you one about me because I think
I think we
transparency is
trust
key.
people more if
Yeah,
we
100%.
learn
We
from our
listen.
mistakes.
We
And we
listen,
don't judge.
No judging. I have dropped a cake once. Well,
Do you know what I hate?
When?
When people say, "Don't drop the cake, don't drop the
Oh,
cake."
yeah.
Of course, I
I don't
fucking know
plan
not
to.
to drop the cake.
I love when I'm taking the cake after the cake cut and I walk into the kitchen. They're like, "Don't drop the cake," and I'm like, "Don't fucking matter now. Doesn't matter if I drop it now, does it? You want to cut it?"
you can eat it off the floor.
Fair.
So no, I will restate that. I didn't drop the cake. The box, the base of the box that the cake was in, dropped. So the cake came out of the bottom.
How many
of the...
tiers? What are we talking? Is this
So
a wedding morning?
This was going to be a 4-tier wedding cake,
Was
but
it?
it was the bottom 2 tiers were traveling together. you know.
Okay.
And I was just carrying it by the handles because the box had a handle. So you're like, oh, it's designed to be carried with handles. First lesson learned, don't carry a box with handles, even if it's got handles. Just carry it from the base. And yeah, basically the 2 bottom tiers just fell out at the bottom of the box. The bottom of the box just gave way. They landed on the patio outside the venue. First time I've ever been at this venue. This venue was 2 hours away from me. So I was nowhere near home. The bottom tier landed flat, but the tier above it kind of, from the impact, kind of fell off the side of it. Luckily, it was a fondant cake, which meant it had like shell, basically. Yeah. But it was like fondant that stood up above the cake in like strips.
Yeah.
Took all of those off. So all of those were ruined. So obviously, luckily the top 2 tiers were in separate boxes. The sugar flowers were in separate boxes. So they were okay. But obviously the second tier was like dented halfway in. Like it was... So I just kind of scooped up, ran inside and cried.
Obviously.
And obviously the photographers were like, you can do this. And I was thinking...
I'm panicking, I lose my job.
Actually, well, it was a really expensive wedding cake as well. So it was almost like, it's not, never mind. Like it was a really important thing to them. It had loads of sugar flowers on it and everything. So the original idea was like, well, I might just have to place the flowers in different places and just hide all the bits. It took me 3.5 hours to fix this cake. I went into the kitchen of the venue and made royal icing. I was like, I need icing sugar and I need egg yolks and egg white and I need to make royal icing. So I did that. And I spent 3.5 hours fixing this cake and the bride didn't have a clue.
No,
Wow.
that's
Did
what you
not
get
know.
for being a pro.
Yeah.
And the groom I had told, because I was like, if I can't, I said to him, like, I don't know whether I can fix this. And if I can't, you kind of need to know why you haven't got your wedding cake. So I did tell him, but I said, don't tell the bride because
she doesn't need to know.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't have a clue. Obviously, I spoke to the caterers about like, this cake probably not necessarily, if it can be, it hadn't broken the skin, if we say. But I was like, they can't really eat the shell. They need to take the fondant off when you serve it. If they want to serve it, that's their choice. And it looked exactly how it was meant to look.
Wow.
And I actually got asked to be a recommended supplier at the venue. And I was like, I don't know about that.
Did you not see me drop that cake?
I think they were so impressed with the resolution of it. That
This
they
is
were
what
like,
it is, though. Genuinely, it like mistakes happen.
Yeah,
it is
100%.
how you deal with them. You could have just gone, oh, I've broken it. Sorry, I'll take it back.
I'll take it
Have
back. I'll just
top
refund
2
you money
tiers.
and I'm just going home and I'm not having it. But that's why, and this is why you book a professional, because they will know how to fix stuff when it goes wrong. It doesn't mean it doesn't go wrong, but they'll know how to fix it.
Yes.
Whereas somebody who has never done it before would just be like, I don't know what to do, cry and just leave probably.
Yeah.
Cause a massive scene and dip out.
100%.
Oh dear.
Well,
So
well
that is
done.
the worst.
That's incredible.
Should we end on a bitch from a bride? Are you ready? I booked a wedding cake with a lady I met at a wedding fair 12 months ago. I paid the deposit and haven't heard from her since. We emailed 3 times before getting a response, and she's finally come back to us and said she will do a final meeting 2 weeks before the day. Is this enough time? Should I try and find someone else? Is it too late? Should I be worried?
Yes.
We had that with one of our brides, that the samples got sent 3 weeks before the wedding for her to pick the flavours.
I mean,
I feel like my pudding would dictate.
The workflow of the wedding cake maker there is not on point.
When would you be getting like your final information?
At least a month before is when I need to have everything locked in.
Yeah.
Like everything
the designs and sketches and...
So the consultation will happen the start of your wedding year for everything, like flavours, consultations. If you're in the wedding industry and you're doing regular wedding cakes, you don't have time during peak wedding season to be running consultations and doing all of that. Ad hoc ones here and there, fine. But in general, you're making cakes, you're making wedding cakes. So you need to be getting all that done way ahead of time. You need to be a month before, everything should be set.
Yeah.
And they should be communicating with you throughout. Every time there's something to do, the week or 2 weeks before the wedding, you should be getting emails being like, I'm doing your wedding cake, don't worry.
Yeah.
Like, because otherwise you get panicky people that are like, we haven't spoken for 6 months.
Yeah.
And we're still going to be doing my cake.
Communication's key.
100%. And it makes all the difference.
But should they be booking somewhere? Like, would you, if somebody came to you and said, I was spending £1,000 on this wedding cake, it's in 2 weeks' time, I haven't heard from this person, we've done a £200 deposit, should I just sack off that deposit? And can you do it?
Yeah, 100%. Get someone who is actually going to communicate with you.
I just think communication, honestly, it annoys me when people aren't just reply to me.
This is the thing, like, and if you're emailing them, if somebody's emailing you and they're not replying, if you're emailing someone and they're not replying promptly, and I'm not saying like same day, but like promptly
within the
in
week.
A reasonable time, there's a reason.
Yeah.
There's a reason.
Also, nobody's too busy to email and say, I'm sorry, I've got 6 back-to-back weddings. You won't hear from me now until blah, blah, blah.
But also, as a bride, you want your wedding to be perceived as the most important part of that supplier. We all know as suppliers that is not the case. You know, we also have other weddings and all this going on as well. But you want to make them feel like your wedding is the most important.
Yeah.
And that is through communicating
100%.
and not just leaving people in the lurch.
So you're saying cancel?
Cancel, get a new cake maker. Good luck with finding one 2 weeks before.
I know, that's the problem.
I would, before you cancel, shop around, find out availability.
And then cancel.
And then
get the Colin the Caterpillars.
Just go
get
to
to
the
M&S.
Collins and the Colin and Connie. Well, it's been lovely, Charlotte.
I know, this has been so nice. I feel like
we haven't fallen out.
We haven't fallen out. I feel like I would encourage people, if they want the cake, to go big or go home with it.
I don't think it has to be big.
Go interested or not.
Important or not. 100%.
Can you leave everybody with one final message to help them when they're thinking about cakes?
Go with what you like the look of. Don't worry about the rest. Obviously, it's got to taste good, and you want to go to a cake maker who makes tasty cakes. And like I say, whether that's through reputation or whether that's through trying their cakes, whatever method they use. But anyone who's trying to upsell you to have certain cakes for any reason, go with what you like the look of. The rest can be accommodated for with cutting cakes and all of that, you know? And people will eat your cake if you give it to them. Like, put it in front of them. They will eat it.
Hand them cake.
And where can people find you, Charlotte?
So you can, on the socials, across all the socials, it's at Perfect Cakes Co. Cakes with an S and then co at the end. That's on TikTok, Instagram and Facebook. If anyone still uses that anymore.
Are we still on Facebook?
That's where you'll find all my wedding cake. If you want to go the real behind the scenes me, head over to TikTok.
It's
if
fun
you
over
want
there.
the nice
I like
professional
TikTok.
Charlotte, head to Instagram.
Yeah, start on Instagram, get to know her, and then be like, yeah, I want to see it, and then go and see her getting trolled. And then you shouting back at the trolls. I really enjoy that.
Basically, yeah. But
And you on your treadmill. The walking
exactly,
treadmill.
yeah, I do. I don't, just to notify everyone who is watching and has watched any of my reels, I do not make your wedding cakes on a treadmill. It is for content only. People genuinely were worried. I know. But yeah, and you can find me on my website, www.perfectcakesco.co.uk.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on,
Thank
and
you
we
for having
will see you soon.
I think I've been very well behaved today.
You have been good. Well done. Look at us.
I had my husband in the back of my head like, don't say anything.
Don't fuck up. You could ruin your whole business. Amazing. Thank you so much. We love you. Goodbye.
Bye.